Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the last episode of this glorious knowledge drop, number 29, for this beautiful August week of 2021. So, the first couple episodes this week, we were talking about some pretty specific ecom stuff, legal stuff, numbers, improvements, some pretty cool stuff, if you ask me. This is where we're going to take a little bit of a left turn and talk about something that I call normal people programming. So, Scotty, I'm kind of curious to hear some of the things that you're going to come up with for this. The premise here is that there's a certain way that people tend to think, just being I'm kind of classifying, there's two groups of people. You got your normal people, and then you got your business people. We're the business people over here. And you guys listen to this, you're either the business people or you want to be the business people. And there's a lot of things that you wouldn't really recognize, that you wouldn't really know about unless someone told you, or unless you just like figured it out yourself through like months and years of trial and error. There's just like ways of thinking and mental models that quote unquote normal people tend to have towards business that are just so blatantly wrong. And it's funny because I feel like these are things that a lot of people would consider to be common knowledge that are just like blatantly not true. So we wanted to go through some of these things and hopefully, open your eyes if you're still closer to the normal people side than you are the business people side. Go through some of these things and hopefully dispel some misconceptions, because if you think like, these things, and if you do think some of these things, it's not your fault necessarily. I'm not like trying to shit on normal people overall. But these are just things that, you tend to learn. And, I used to think a lot of these things myself. It's just like it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like armchair quarterbacks, like what people who are sitting on the sidelines who've never run a business, these are just the things that they consider to be normal, that they consider to be common knowledge, that are just like, if you ask anyone who has to actually run a business, they're like, no, that's not true at all. But if you grew up, most of us did not grow up around a lot of very successful business people, so chances are that unless you've intentionally kind of like rooted these out of your brain, you probably have some of these still in there. So that's the premise. Scotty,
before you start, I gotta jump in.
Yeah, let's hear it.
For everyone who has seen this meme or this graph where it's like the IQ standard deviation, where on the one hand you have absolute retards, cannot walk and chew gum. In the middle, you have most people. This is most people. And on the right, you have super geniuses. And the meme essentially is that the retards and the super geniuses kind of do the same thing, albeit for different reasons. The people in the middle, this episode is about things that they think.
Yeah. Great meme. I love that freaking meme.
You got to be either smarter or dumber than the norm.
It is funny how that works, where like the people who are just like not that smart, they tend to do the right things because they don't overthink, and they just like just do shit because they just don't really have like the intelligence to like really think things through. So they just do shit. And that ends up working out better than the people who are like a little bit smarter and just end up not doing anything because they're just overthinking. It's funny how that works. Scotty, we have a few things in the outline here. Do you have any kind of quotes or any mental models that are not on here that fit into this category?
Jesus Christ.
Dude. That's just rude. That's just freaking rude.
He's going to call again. He's going to call again. He's going to keep calling.
Dude, can you not just close out of Skype?
Bro, my Skype is closed.
It's obviously not.
Oh, he is. Or it is.
Is it a robot calling?
It's Skype.
All right, we good now?
I believe so.
All right, so back to what I was saying. Anything that's not on this outline that you think fits into here?
I mean, felt like putting me on the spot here. Why don't you start talking about going the stuff that is in the outline, and then I'll see if I have anything to add.
Okay. Okay, that's a little less fun, but we can do it that way too. The mindset of why would anyone buy an info product when they can get the same info for free online? That's one of my favorite ones. Just it's especially funny because like this is literally the argument. Like this argument fits like why would you go to college? You know, why would you go to college when all the textbooks are online anyway? And no one really applies it to that, but they apply it to dudes selling courses online. Um, the reason that you buy an info product is because it's all the information all in one place so that you don't have to spend all of your valuable time combing through all these different resources on the internet. I think this is honestly getting more and more important as time goes on because the internet is just full of so much bullshit. Like there's no shortage of information, but I think there is a shortage of really high quality information because if you search for something, half the websites that are going to come up are like, bullshit SEO optimized websites written by some Indian dude that someone got off Upwork who doesn't know anything about the actual topic, but is, it's just like so much BS out there. And the reason you buy an info product is because it's worth it for the money. If it's going to help you and it's going to save you a lot of time, like it's kind of a no-brainer. It's just so funny to me because I bought so many info products, man. Like if something is going to improve whatever I'm doing, if it's going to teach me something that I want to learn and it's going to save me a bunch of time of having to figure out where all that information is, like that's 100% worth it. And it's just
You're
funny
also,
to be.
you're also going to save literally hundreds of hours of listening to YouTube intros and people say, if you like this video, like and subscribe, yada, yada, yada. And like any YouTube video, like if you just try to piece the info together, if it's a 15-minute video, the info you're looking for, like unless you're a complete beginner, is going to be 1.5 minutes of that 15. And the rest of it is intro followed by basic info that you need to know, followed by maybe this little piece of info that you need, and then a whole bunch more rambling. Whereas if you have an info product, if I'm going into how to scale your Facebook ads, I don't need to explain what Facebook ads are first, because if you're in chapter 9, section 5 of my course, I assume that you've read the previous 9 chapters.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way a structured product works, and going to save you a bunch of time. Also going to result in you not mixing and matching info that you shouldn't mix and match.
Yep. Absolutely. I think that the root of that is just like the average person does not value his time. The average person is like much more focused on the money that they have, and they don't kind of, it's like it seems super basic and super common sense to me now, but like the entire concept of money spent can be made back, but time spent cannot. You only got so much time, but there's unlimited money for all intents and purposes. So I think that's kind of where that comes from. One of my favorites, it's oversaturated. It's too late. You can't get in anymore. There's too many people doing it. I feel like that's like, there is some validity to that in some sense. I'm not saying that's entirely bullshit. There are different markets where if there's a lot of competition, then it's going to be more difficult. But realistically speaking, if a lot of people are doing it, what that tells me is that it's working and there's money to be made. I think your average person sees that and is like, oh, well, it's not a brand new $1 million business idea, so it's not going to work for me. That's what I used to think that, man. I used to think that 100%. I used to think I had to invent something if I wanted to make money, and you don't. You don't have to, I promise.
Luckily, you invented AirPods.
I did. I had the idea for AirPods before AirPods existed, back when I was about 16 years old, and I didn't do anything with it. So now Apple is adding to their $1 billion bottom line while I scrape for pennies and, just regret my previous life decisions. No.
I mean, if there's something you should regret, it's that mullet you had for a while.
I think the ponytail is worse than the mullet.
Yeah.
Another one, 9 out of 10 businesses fail. That's a great one. Now, that's probably statistically true. Although, maybe. I don't know. I feel like if you actually took like the percentage of businesses that fail of people who like actually put in 1 year plus of focused work consistently, it's probably a lot less than that fail. But 9 out of 10 businesses fail, so you may as well not even try. The odds are not in your favor. You may as well not even try. So just don't even do it. That's like saying getting in shape is impossible because most people are fat. Are most people fat?
That's hilarious.
Most people are fat, at least in the US. Most people are fat. So going along those lines, no, getting in shape doesn't work, man. It's not possible. You can't get in shape because everyone's fat. That's so dumb. That's so freaking dumb. I had a great tweet along these lines. 9 out of 10 businesses fail. Fine. I'll try 10 times then. Boom.
That is not a great tweet, bro. That
No,
is the
that's a
most
sick platitude.
unoriginal take of all time.
That's a sick platitude.
That is very, very unoriginal. The most people are fat, so there's obviously you can't get in shape is a much better comparison.
Another one. This is, I mean, I used to think this too. You look at a product and you think, well, I wouldn't buy that, so why would anyone else? Terrible, terrible thought process there. Just because you wouldn't buy something doesn't mean that there's not a million other people who would. I think that's kind of a misconception where people generally think that everyone else in the world is somewhat like them and like thinks generally the same way that they do. And that is just so not the case. You know, like especially dudes, young dudes, like when I was 18 and didn't have any money, just about any product that I saw, I would think, well, I wouldn't buy that. And it's not because it wasn't a good product. It's because I was broke and I didn't have any money to spend. You know, just because you're broke doesn't mean that everyone else is. If you're 18 and you're looking at products and you're like, well, I wouldn't buy that. What you would buy is not a good indicator of what you should sell because generally speaking, 18-year-olds don't really buy a whole lot of stuff because they don't really have a whole lot of money to buy a whole lot of stuff. And the weirdest products that you would think like, I can't believe that anyone would buy this. A lot of the cases tend to be the products that people really want to buy. So that's a huge one, is just like not basing what you should sell off of what you would want to buy. None of the products that I've sold are products that I would want to buy myself.
Yeah, this is also why I like to be selling in markets that I'm not a part of. Because would I buy this? Is just never the right question to be asking. Because again, like, what do I spend money on? Travel, food, jiu-jitsu instructionals. That's about it. Books. Like, there is no ecom product I could sell to myself because I don't buy ecom products. So if I'm trying to sell a jiu-jitsu product, the question, like what I would buy personally, is irrelevant because I'm not even part of the market. I think I'm part of the market because I'm into jiu-jitsu, but if you're selling jiu-jitsu products, you're not selling to people who do jiu-jitsu. You're selling to people who buy jiu-jitsu products. And the two is not the same. There might be a lot of people that train once a month but buy a lot of gear. And then there's people who train fucking twice a day and don't buy gear. You're selling to the people who buy, not to the people who are most passionate necessarily.
I like that distinction. That's especially true. Like the difference between men and women, especially, like girls will spend hours online shopping. You know, like that's something that they enjoy doing as like a pastime. Dudes, you know, we don't really do that a whole lot. Maybe some people do. I'm not saying that, you know, no dudes enjoy online shopping, but generally speaking, that's just kind of how it goes. And I think if you're a young dude, especially, you really got to be careful about this because your perspective of the world and like what you would buy is so different from the majority of markets that you would potentially sell to.
Yep. Then there's also the perhaps common misconception down a similar line of thought where you're selling something that a similar or identical version is available on Amazon for less. So why would anyone buy from you? Again, you don't price compare everything that you buy in your own life. And the people looking at your ads don't price compare everything either. So
Some people do.
It's irrelevant where else it's available.
Yeah. And I mean, some people do that. A small percentage of people do price compare everything that they buy. And guess what? That's not who you're selling to. Just like Scotty was saying, you're not selling to the people who price compare everything because those people, I mean, just overall, those are like probably the absolute worst customers in the entire world. It's the biggest headache. But yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Another good one is if his business actually worked, why would he be selling courses? He just makes all his money selling courses. Now, again, this does apply to some people. There's definitely people who just sell courses, but I don't know. I feel like generally speaking, the general public has a very I don't know, just a very negative view of like information, of buying information. And it's just so funny because it's the context of it. You have no problem spending $150 on an outdated textbook for college. But if someone offers to sell you a $37 course on, I don't know, how to cook the best souffle in the entire world, you're like, oh my God. You know, like it's just different context, and people don't really understand it's basically the same thing. It's just not in the context of a quote unquote prestigious university. It's just freaking dumb, man. It's just freaking dumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so I'll circle back. Anything on the outline that's not there?
Jesus. I guess I added my 2 cents earlier. Anything else? Anything else? Normal people programming being wrong.
I think this is kind of goes along with one of the previous ones, but thinking that if you come up with some idea for a product and you don't see any other businesses doing it, like thinking that you have $1 million idea that no one's ever thought of yet. I used to think that. I was literally looking for ideas that like I couldn't find anyone doing already, which is just like in hindsight the dumbest thing in the entire world, because 9 times out of 10, chances are if you come up with an idea and you can't find anyone else doing it, you probably didn't come up with some $1 million idea that is just the perfect idea in the entire world and no one else has thought of it yet. There's a lot of other people out there, man. There's a lot of people who are involved in business, a lot of people who are constantly trying to come up with great new ideas. If you come up with something and no one's done it before, 9 times out of 10, that's because it's just not a great idea. It doesn't work that well in execution.
Shout out to our failed ukulele business.
The ukulele business. I still have one, dude.
You still have the ukulele?
I still have the ukulele.
Yeah. I did have one other thing, which is I get asked this a lot by like people that I've known for years. Okay, or like, I don't even know if it's a question, it's more of a statement usually. It's like, I think it's super cool what you're doing, but like, I just don't know if it's going to last. I just don't know if it's still going to be around. I don't know if it's going to last for long. And yeah, I mean, that's just one of those misconceptions where like, they might be right, but if they are right, by the time that the thing happens, I'm going to be so far ahead financially that it doesn't matter. And also I'm going to have so much experience and unique experiences that they don't have, because they're doing a fucking university degree that 500 other people in our city are doing, 10,000 other people in the country are doing, 100,000 people in the world are doing. Whereas I'm doing something that, I don't know, 100, 1,000 people in the world have done. Who's going to come out of this in 10 years in a better position? Worst case, if everything we do fails, Facebook stops working, ecom ceases to exist, I'm going to be in a better place financially, and I'm going to be in a better place in terms of network. I'm going to be in a better place in terms of experience and knowledge. Like, I just think if I was to apply for an entry-level job, I would crush graduates from university. Not in every job. Some jobs you might just be filtered out because you don't have the degree. But like, I just don't see how, if you're running your own business successfully for 5 years, managing employees, doing whatever, and you put that on your resume, I just don't see how you're going to struggle to get a normal job that somebody with a college degree could get.
Yeah. And I think you also have the aspect of, I just don't know if it's going to last. Like, what do you mean? Do you think people are going to stop buying physical products using the internet? Like, that's an absurd notion, to think that the internet is just going to like die out or something, that people are going to stop buying physical products.
Yeah.
That's never going to happen. Like, it's literally not possible.
I mean, there's been a lot of online businesses.
Into an apocalypse.
there's been a lot of online businesses that have ceased to exist. Like the entire model just is obsolete. But I would say if you're actually working every day and not just resting on your laurels, you see that coming about 5 years out, or like you see it coming ahead of time. And if you're always working and always learning, it's not like you're going to wake up one day and your business model is obsolete. It's a gradual process. And if you see that coming, you hopefully transition to something else, as I have done like multiple times in my fucking short career online already.
Yep.
It's like any one business you have, any one business model even that you have might stop working, but sales and marketing is not going to go away. And sales and marketing on the internet is probably not going to go away.
Probably not. Probably not.
It's also like people say it's risky. It's like what everyone thinks like going into online marketing is risky, which I suppose in some ways I'm sure it is. But if you think about it on a larger like macro scale, what's more risky? Spending $300 to test out a product in a market that is growing every year, like the fastest growing exploding market of the past decade. Working in that industry, you think that's more risky than working in banking, which has been in secular decline for I don't know how many decades? Getting a 5-year degree or a 3-year degree or however fucking many years you go to school to then work in an industry that has no profit margins and has been declining and laying off people and is being replaced by technology. Like, what do you mean what we do is risky? Like, everything is risky in life, but I think in terms of probabilities, I think if you actually follow our model of living cheaply and building your business and always be working and learning skills, that is so much less risky than almost everything else you can do in life.
Yeah. I think that's true. People just have a different conception of risk. You know, like, yeah, they don't have, if you work a regular 9 to 5 job, like you don't have the risk of your income dipping this month. Your income is, you know, somewhat secure in that sense. But I also don't have the risk of getting fired. I don't have the risk of getting laid off. I don't have the risk of my boss hates me and I'm stuck in a dead end position because no one is going to promote me. You know, it's different kinds of risk. I prefer I prefer this kind personally.
Yep.
Well, I think that'll about do it. You got anything else, Scott, man, for the normal people programming?
I think that's about it.
Just be aware of these things, folks, and try to, you know, try to think about, especially if you're in the beginning stages, think about these kind of beliefs that you've been indoctrinated with throughout your life. You know, I mean, it just kind of happens. Like, unless you were raised by entrepreneurs, in all likelihood, you have some of these things in your head, and you think these types of things that are just really not true. Um, you know, think about that. Think about how you could maybe improve your mindset. I think that's always a worthy thing of, you know, a thing worth doing is improving your mindset. Especially these kind of, a lot of these things are kind of related around limiting beliefs that just don't really have a base in reality. So think about that. See what you can come up with. And again, I'm not trying to shit on normal people. Normal people are the lifeblood of my business. You know, without normal people, we wouldn't have an ecom business because normal people are who, you know, who buy our products. But if you want to be a businessman or a businesswoman, you got to be thinking like one. So hopefully that helps you do that. As always, we hope you guys enjoyed this week's knowledge drop. This was an extra long one. Hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, if you have things that you want us to talk about, questions that you want us to answer, concerns that you have, let us know in Telegram, and maybe we'll make an episode. Maybe we'll make an episode about it. And I think that'll about do it. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Peace.